Hello. You find me in an undisclosed location, and if you can guess where I am, then 1,000 cool points to you. And I'm here because lots of people have been asking me recently about help with their original characters, their OCs. Basically, they've been saying, Jimmy, I want to do a Viking, or I want to do a medieval-themed OC, can you help? And because I've had like 15 people ask me this, I was like, well, I'm not going to just respond individually by DM, so let's jam. Cowboy Bebop reference. And people have been sending me loads of lovely messages saying, I'm designing an original character, I want to do an OC for my for my D&D campaign, or just as an art project, or for college. And when it starts to be for things like college or, you know, school projects, I don't like the idea of people coming up to me and saying like, oh, can you help me with my school project? Because I'm not an expert. I maintain I am not an expert in Viking Age archaeology, history, textiles, any of that. I have some knowledge beyond the layman, but we're going to start from the ground up, and I'm going to try my best. So for people who are trying to develop a costume for their original character, if you're if you're trying to make them Viking, and most of the time people are asking me about a Viking Age man, starting from the shoes. Shoes 1,000 years ago were less bulky than shoes now. Like today, I'm wearing a pair of boots. I'm wearing a pair of Blundstone boots. These are really chunky by a lot of historical standards. Consider that they weren't able to use things like the rubber soles that we use now. Your sole for your shoe is going to be a few mil thick if it's a good shoe sole leather, and then it's going to be a sort of natural leather coloured shoe. Yes, they're oiling their shoes. Yeah, we do believe that they are dyeing their shoes, but in large part the shoes you're going to want to be fairly plain looking, closed with a toggle or with a single lace. And a really good place to look for Viking Age shoes is Jorvik Viking Centre in York. They have pictures of the shoes that were dug up in York. You can also look at the National Museum of Denmark that have got a huge collection of Viking Age footwear. And it's also important to note that we don't actually have any solid evidence that footwear was gendered necessarily. It's likely, obviously, if you were working a harder job, if you were out on a campaign, if you were fighting, you would need more solid footwear than if you are at home working in a jewellery workshop, for example. So consider things like that, but shoes, by and large, fairly plain-looking, natural tones. If you want them to be wearing a colourful pair of shoes, look into the dye colours that would be possible in the period. You have to consider things like if you treat leather with alum, it makes it paler. If you alum tan your leather, it makes it paler. It makes the dye easier to take. I'm just going to adjust my exposure settings slightly. So it means that you'll be able to get a brighter coloured dye on your footwear. So yeah, think about that. Think about who your character is. If your character is of lower social status, if they are a fairly poor farmer or a serf, highly unlikely that they're going to be wearing bright red dyed like high boots with 4 toggles each, right? It's more likely they'll be wearing a plain leather pair of turn shoes. Slightly higher up from that, ankles and lower legs, you're looking at things like either the bottom of their hose, so if they're just wearing hose, they're just wearing like fairly closely fitted leg coverings that were popular in the period. Is it just the bottoms of their trousers? We know people were also wearing trousers. Are they wearing leg wraps, also known as vikkelbeinder, also known as winningus, also known as puttees? Are they wearing them? What colour are they? Again, what status are they? Lower status people, often we think, oh, they're wearing drab, like dark brown colours. Possibly, but also possibly they're wearing just undyed sheep's wool colours, so like paler browns, mottled browns and whites and greys, that sort of thing. But also bear in mind, it's very easy to dye things red and yellow in the period. So maybe a faded pink, a rusty orange, a brick red, the colour of the autumn leaves that are strewn all about me in this lovely park. Things like that are worth considering as possibilities as well. If they're wearing leg wraps, we do have evidence for leg wraps being attached by small hooks at the top of the calf, just below the knee. So are they wearing them? Are they simply tucking the end of the leg wrap in? Do they use a band, a woven band, to secure the leg wrap? Lots of different options. That was kind of the way that British leg wraps, I believe, worked in the First World War, so consider looking into things like that. Beyond that, like moving upwards, are they wearing the classic puffy Viking pants, like my big pink pants? We don't fully understand how they work, so that gives you plenty of artistic license. Do you think that they were ankle length and then rucked at the knee? Oh, I left my bag over there. Do you think that they were knee length and that was as far down as they went and the leg wraps are what closes them in at the knee? How do you think that the leg wraps were attached to them? Were they attached to them? What colour are they going to be? These are huge pieces of cloth. They're massive. I think mine are made out of 3 meters of wool. So consider how rich, again, your OC is. Above that, you're looking at a tunic. Tunics are what were worn. Some of them went down to the knee. Some of them went to the mid-thigh. Play with the length. It doesn't really matter, basically. What matters is the tunic should be split by a belt. When I say a belt, I don't mean a 4-inch, 3-inch wide weightlifting belt. I mean a belt that's like an inch wide. Almost all of the belt buckles that we have from the Viking Age would fit a belt of about an inch, 2.5 centimeters. That's what belts looked like back then. They were straps, they were girdles. On the belt, you'll need a buckle, and a strap end is a very fashionable accessory. So look at these museum archives. Look and see what we have as strap fittings, belt buckles, strap ends, those sorts of things. Look at where these styles travelled and how far spread they were. Does it fit your character, where they're from, what their culture is? Are they Kievan Rus? Are they from northwestern Scandinavia? Are they Hiberno-Norse from Ireland? Are they Cambro-Norse from Wales? Are they Anglo-Norse from England? Where are they from? And speaking of travel, let's talk about today's sponsor, because today's sponsor is Saily. And Saily have done a wonderful thing whereby you will get a discount on your Saily eSIM, which I have. There it is, on my phone. That is the Saily app. I have it on my phone. I use it when I go travelling. And if you go to saily.com/Welsh, or if you have the Saily app and it says, have you got a coupon, and you click yes and you put in Welsh, you will get a discount on your eSIM plan. And what is an eSIM plan? An eSIM plan is a thing that we should have had donkeys years ago, where if you download the Saily app, you pick your plan, you select how much data you want and how long you want it for, you get a SIM card abroad. It's not a physical SIM card, it's an electronic SIM, it's an eSIM. I can text home when I travel now. You don't pay over the odds. You don't get overcharged like you used to with all the roaming charges and stuff. You just download Saily. You go to saily.com/Welsh. You use the code Welsh as your coupon code. Full disclosure, they gave me a discount on a 5 gig plan. I've gone travelling with it, and it's brilliant. It's super, super simple. It's really, really easy to use. It takes literal seconds to set it all up. And you can text, you can go on the internet, you can download stuff if you select a plan with enough data on it. It's really, really good. It's really, really simple. They've got more than 150 countries that it works in. So genuinely, it's a really, really good service, and it's a really, really good app. So saily.com/Welsh. Use the coupon code Welsh. And it's from the guys at Nord. It's from the same people that do NordVPN, which I also use, as you guys already know. It's reliable. If you have any problems, their customer service team is genuinely first rate. They're really, really good. And most modern phones allow for eSIMs. If you don't know if yours does, check it online just to make doubly sure. If you have any problems, get in touch with the Saily team. But yeah, saily.com/Welsh. Go and get your eSIM for next time you go travelling. It's well worth it. Genuinely well worth it. We were talking about the Vikings. They travelled all over the place. They brought their fashions with them, but they also took fashions from other places. Things like penannular brooches from the Celtic Sea area. Sort of the Hiberno-Norse look might involve a penannular brooch over the top of the tunic. Tunics in the period, long sleeves, made of wool. Underneath that, maybe a linen tunic, maybe another wool tunic. Again, depends on the character, depends on their status. Trims at the cuffs. Is it a trim of silk? imported through the Byzantine Empire that's been chopped up regardless of the motif. We know that they were doing that. If you look at things like the Mammon clothing from Mammon, which I think is in Denmark, we have evidence that the Norse, the Old Norse, didn't really care about the motifs of silk that they had. They just liked that it was silk and it was colourful, and they would chop it up to use it for different things, for trimming their cuffs, maybe for trimming the neck-shaped neckline of their tunics. What shape neckline should it be, Jimmy? Well, it depends again on the character. What's their taste? What do you like? What shapes do you see in manuscripts, in carvings? Play with it a little bit. I tend to just have a semicircular neckline, maybe with a slit down the middle to get my massive Swede through it. By the way, I'm using a Rode Wireless Go 2 today. This isn't mine. This was hooked up. I was hooked up with this by my mate Logan. So shout out to Logan, who helped me with my mic today. Best moustache in the game. Superb chap. Colour-wise, again, natural dyes. Look at natural dyeing websites. Remember what would be available in Europe at the time. It's no good talking about things like the North American black walnut when that wouldn't have been available. There are different things available in different places. So, for example, if you're going for high status, classically, high status Viking Age man or Viking Age person means blue, because woad is a fairly laborious dye stuff to use in the period. It takes a lot of mordanting, depending on the material. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. So, blue, high status, dark blue, maybe with a nice silk trim at the cuffs. Maybe they're wearing lots of silver, because silver is an expression of wealth, right? Silver is something that should be made into coins. But if you're not making it into coins and you're wearing it, that means you've got money to burn, baby. Jewellery-wise, there's oodles of stuff in museums. Look at museum collections, because the main thing that trips new reenactors up is buying bad jewellery from unreliable sources, naming no names, but there are some really bad, fake Viking jewellery shops out there. Try to avoid that in your characters as well. Obviously, it's artistic license. If you want them to be wearing super cool jewellery that you've designed based off Old Norse culture, absolutely go for it. But if you want authenticity and if you want historical accuracy, look into the museums. The British Museum has a massive collection of Viking Age jewellery. Well worth a look. Be careful, some of it's mislabeled, but you will get your eye in eventually. Think silver arm rings, silver torques, penannular brooches, silver strap ends, yeah? We've talked about penannular brooches. That's there to hold on a cloak. Okay, now classically, a cloak on a man is shown pinned at the shoulder so that the gap in the cloak is here so that your right arm, your sword arm, your fighting arm is free to work. But we also have pictures of them pinned in the centre. You could pin it on the left-hand side. What we never see is two cloak pins to hold up a cloak. That's not how cloaks work. If you have two cloak pins on your cloak, you're pinning it to your tunic, which will make holes in your tunic. Your cloak has its pin permanently attached probably most of the time. Chances are you've got one cloak unless you're very wealthy. We'll talk about that. One cloak pin to hold your cloak up. It's how I wear mine. It's worked for me for 15 years. Cloak pin at the shoulder. Penannular brooch. Disc brooch. Three-lobed brooch, if you want to be fancy about it. See my previous video on the new skeletons that they've just found in Denmark. Try and see if you can find one that inspires you that is from a museum collection. And if you're designing the jewellery on your character, obviously disregard that advice. You don't have to follow that. This isn't hard and fast rules. This is just me trying to do what you guys have asked me to do. And if anybody has any further information that they want to share in the comments, by all means do. If anybody is an expert or an archaeologist, please come in the comments and expand on this. Show what you want people, tell us what you want people to be doing in their characters and in their Viking-inspired art, because it's important to hear from people who have skin in the game. Moving upwards, the head. You're basically looking at a pillbox cap, maybe... Oh, before we move on, fur-lined cloaks are a thing. Like I say, the Mammon find in Denmark, again, we have evidence that they were lining their cloaks with fur, marmot fur of all things, I believe it was in Mammon. Could be wrong there, but... yeah, consider lining your cloak to be really luxurious, to look really rich, really elite. For headwear... Christianized women, we believe, generally, you wear a headscarf. A nice, very thin woolen fabric. You can get beautiful bleached white wool, gauze that would be suitable for a veil, for a wedding veil. In the period they were making this kind of stuff. Otherwise, a nice linen or a nice silk. What colour were they? Well, we know that the Hiberno-Norse, the Irish Viking silk cap found in Dublin, was originally dyed purple. So they were dyeing their headgear. Yes, they were. In terms of men, a simple pillbox cap or maybe a panel cap, not too dissimilar to the hat I'm wearing now, in shape, of an appropriate colour. Maybe made of silk, if you want to be real fancy. In terms of war gear, maybe a sword strapped at the hip with a baldric over the shoulder rather than a sword belt. Baldric over the shoulder also gives you the opportunity to wear a strap end on your baldric, right? You can wear a buckle and a strap on your sword strap, so even more chances for you to wear jewellery, to show off your jewellery. The armour that you want is a mail shirt if you're wearing armour. Why does your Viking Age warrior need a gambeson and a mail shirt and lamellar armour? He doesn't. He's not afraid to be injured in battle. Injury to a warrior is an occupational hazard. He will be injured, and then he will survive by his sword arm strength and his faith in the Lord or the gods, and he will live to tell the tale and show his scars off to his comrades in arms as they drink over the memories of the fallen in a mead hall. Right? You don't need 8 inches of armour, right? Nobody's loosing bodkins at you like they are in Agincourt in the same way 400 years later. So, a nice mail shirt, a helmet. We have a few helmet finds from the period now, so go and have a look at things like the Skjoldham, not the Skjoldham, the other one, the Geirmundbu helmet, the Yarm helmet. We have helmets from other parts of Europe that you might want to look into if your Viking has been a-travelling. Kievan Rus helmets and that kind of thing. Oh, it's getting really dark here. But we're at the head. We've pretty much made it, gang. Think about all of that. Think about colours. Think about the natural dyes that your Viking has access to. Think about the materials. Leather for the shoes. Wool for everything else. Silk trim if they're fancy. Can they wear a full tunic made out of silk, I hear you cry? Have they got access to that kind of wealth? Have they got access to it? A mail shirt and a sword in the period is equivalent to buying a large detached house and a top-of-the-line sports car. So consider whether your Viking is that wealthy. Are they that wealthy? If so, show it. Make it go mad. That's pretty much it. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope that this has been fun and a little bit of use and inspiration for you guys. Do send me your characters. Send me what you've been doing. Tag me in posts on Instagram. I'll share them. And if you want to do it, let me know. But I would love to then follow this up with, what have you guys done with some of this? Has this advice gone into your artwork? And are you willing for me to do a video on it? Because I'd love to do a review of this. So in the next couple of weeks, once this has gone out, send me a couple of pieces, and we'll do a fun little review video, all light-hearted and positive comments. So, I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to support the channel financially, we have the Patreon, we have the coffee link. If you want to just like, subscribe, share, and get engaged in the comments, please, please do. I want to get my channel to 100,000 so that I can dangle a silver play button from a tree branch behind me next time. Diolch yn fawr am wylio. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, tan y tro nesa. Hwyl fawr am y tro. Bye-bye for now. Right, let's get out of here before a wolf eats me.